Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one last regional deep dive. This time, we're going through the wilderness. You didn't think I'd forget you guys, did you? We'll be going through everything that the region has to offer, some of the tasks that you should expect to do here, and what kind of gear you can expect to get if you choose this as one of your unlocks. Now, the play area for the wilderness is really simple. It's super obvious. It's just the wilderness. It's this nice little square here, and really there's doesn't really leave a lot of room for question. I mean, this is what you get. Now, the wilderness comes with a lot of unique rules that really make it different from the rest of the regions, and actually it's very hard to even compare it because of how different it is. First up, you will be able to PK other players. However, because everybody is an Iron Man, you won't actually drop anything when you die. So if somebody kills you, they're largely just going to be doing it for fun. However, that's not the only reason why somebody might be interested in killing you, and so you should be ready to expect some kind of player versus player combat. For example, the wilderness is home to the black chinchompas. It's the only place you can actually hunt for them. And what you might experience is that a lot of players, they're not going to hop world after world after world trying to find a world that doesn't have anybody there or to share it with you. They might just run up and try to kill you for the spot. And although I did say that you don't lose any items, I do believe that if you have any black chinchompas on you, those all kind of run away when you die. So this is something that you should definitely look out for. Be very careful running around with stacks of like 2,000 black chinchompas, because if you lose it, that's going to feel really awful. So as a result, there's going to be a lot of competition for some of the better resources spots. And this also means that if you're somebody who actually enjoys that aspect of the game and you want to fight for your resources, you want, the best hunter spot, the best fishing spot, the best mining spot, all that stuff, like you can't just kill people for, that is part of the wilderness. It's something that you should expect here. In addition, in the wilderness, there are several bosses. However, they will not be available in an instance. This means that there's only going to be like one boss available for that world. And so if somebody wants to go farm that boss and you happen to be there, well, you're going to be at risk of them basically killing you for like access to that boss. And for some people, you probably hate this. Is a big reason why I know a lot of people probably write off the wilderness and like day one of their playing. They just don't want to deal with any of that kind of PvP. They don't want to deal with people who are literally just coming just to mess up your day, which will happen. There will be some people, especially in like the first week or so, who are literally just there just to mess with you, basically. But for others, I think this PvP aspect does resemble some of like the hardcore MMOs in the past. And if you like that, this is a great opportunity for you to, try out the wildy in leagues. You're still going to get the crazy fast experience modes, but you're also going to be able to fight for your spots, fight for your resources. And don't forget that you will have access to like 2 other regions. So if for some reason you are getting like absolutely camped at one spot and you can't find anything to do, you can always go to one of the other regions available to you and do some tasks, do some skilling, do some combat over there, and then, come back to the wilderness when it's a little bit less crowded. Again, I would definitely say that the first 2 weeks, there's probably going to be a lot more PvP activity, but from everything that I've heard of people who have went to Wilderness in the past and from Wilderness and Shattered Relics League, it kind of dies down after like a week or two. There's just not that many people who are going around with the sole purpose of trying to fight. That being said, I'm not really going to bring it up again because it's just something that you should know and accept if you're going to go for the wildy. In addition, past level 20 and also past level 30, you're going to have some teleports that are restricted. Basically, I'm just going to say past level 30, you're not able to teleport out of the wilderness. And this means that a lot of really cool uses, such as using your last recall to bank, might not be possible anymore because you're not going to be able to like teleport out of the resource area, which is in deep wilderness. So that's something that you might want to think about, and you might want to alter your relics. So for example, if you do go to the resource area in the deep wilderness, maybe instead of relying on last recall and a bank to, bank all your stuff, grab the banker's note, which will allow you to note everything. And it's okay to have, huge noted stacks of stuff because you're going to be carrying it all there. And also I realize that in the resource area, there's a guy who just puts everything in notes anyways, so you're kind of good there. In addition, you will get a looting bag very early from like killing any monster in the wilderness. And this just acts as extra inventory space where you can pick up stuff. So use this to your advantage. This is one of the best perks of the wilderness, is taking advantage of the looting bag. So let's go over some major locations in the wilderness. We're going to be starting off here in the Ferox Enclave. This is probably good. This is probably where like the waypoint is for the wilderness. So you're going to basically be able to access here very easily. But you can also use like a ring of dueling to get here if for whatever reason that's not like the main hub. And luckily, this place is safe, so people won't be able to kill you inside of here. Now, the most important thing here is probably going to be your pool of refreshments. It's important to note that these will reset your stats. So if you had your stats drained below the normal level, it's going to reset them back to what they should be. However, this also means that if you are under the effects of like a super combat potion and your stats are boosted, it's also going to reset your stats to baseline. So just be aware of that. If you're like using the pool of refreshment at the Ferox Enclave between every boss kill, you are going to have to re-up your potion. Additionally, this one does not restore your special attack. So if you're running the Weapon Master Relic and you're planning on dumping a lot of special attacks, be aware that this is not going to be your solution. You're going to have to find a different source, such as a rejuvenation pool in your player-owned house, or the statue in Narda that is going to give you your special attack back. Now, in the northeast of the wilderness, you'll have access to the Fountain of Rune. It's located right over here. This has two uses. First off, it's going to allow you to cast spells even if you don't have the runes for it. And this might come in handy if you had any kind of task available to you, such as, let's say, casting Fire Surge, but you don't have access to Wrath runes, so you wouldn't normally be able to use that. You can use the Fountain of Rune instead to actually cast it for free, although it might be hard to actually find someone to cast it on. You might need to like find another player or something like that. Otherwise, this is where you're going to be able to recharge any kind of Dragonstone jewelry you have. In particular, this is the only place where you can recharge Ring of Wealth. You're not able to do that in the Myths Guild or the Legends Guild. And while you can recharge Amulet of Glories, Skills Necklace, and Combat Bracelets here, that's going to require Heroes Quest to recharge your Amulet of Glories, and it's going to require Legends Quest complete for Skills Necklace and Combat Bracelets. So make sure you have those quests. Heroes Quest only requires Asgarnia, but if you have the Fremennik unlocked, that's going to autocomplete Heroes Quest and Legends Quest. So that's an easy way of just getting all those requirements met. All right, and just north of the Ferox Enclave, you can actually take a canoe to get to the Black Chinchompas. It's probably the easiest way to get here, and there's quite a good amount of them. Not only are Black Chinchompas some of the best hunter experience in the entire game, but they're also a really powerful ranged weapon, so that you can get a ton of range experience by using them anywhere where you can burst and barrage. And there are multi-combat places in the wilderness, so that's already solved for you. The wilderness is also home to the Chaos Altar. This is by far some of the best prayer experience in the entire game. Not only are you getting 350% of the regular prayer experience, but you also have a 50% chance to save the bone. This effectively means you're getting 2 times the bones that you spent, or like 700%. So it is quite a bit, and because you're not going to lose anything when you die, you can bring a huge stack of noted bones and use the Elder Chaos Druid. He'll actually unnote them for some gold. So wherever you're getting all your bones from, maybe you got Fremennik and you want to do Vorkath, just bring a big old stack and you can get your prayer here really, really quickly. Now, when it comes to quests, the wilderness doesn't have a lot, but what it does have are pretty decent. First, you'll get access to Enter the Abyss auto-completed. This means you'll be able to teleport with the Mage of Zamorak over to the Abyss area. And this means that you'll be able to do all of your rune crafting with all the altars without actually needing the talisman. However, I do think you will need the areas unlocked to actually access the respective altars. So it's not like you're going to be able to go to an altar that you wouldn't normally have access to. It's just an easy way of rune crafting, let's say nature runes, without actually going and getting your nature talisman beforehand. At the very north, you'll also have access to the Mage Arena, as well as the Mage Arena 1 and Mage Arena 2 like mini quest. This rewards you with an Imbued Cape, which is a 2% magic bonus, so you should definitely pick this up if you're planning on going for the wilderness. You'll also be able to do What Lies Below, which does give a pretty decent amount of experience. And if you have Asgarnia and Mauritania, you'll also be able to do the Wanted quest. This gives some Slayer experience, and then you can do the follow-up Devious Minds, which also gives quite a lot of experience. Just to the east of the Mage Arena, you'll have access to the Wilderness Resource Area. This does cost a bit of coins to enter, but that actually goes down with completion of the Wilderness Diary. And once you've completed the Elite Wilderness Diary, you'll actually be able to get in for free. Wilderness Sword also gives you unlimited teleports to the Fountain of Varun. Completing the Hard Diary lets you pick the destination of your obelisk when you're using that to get around the wilderness. And you'll also get noted dragon bones, as well as increasing the catch rate when you're fishing for dark crabs. Dark crabs are unique to the wilderness and they heal you for 22. So it's actually a very good source of fishing and food if that's what you wanted to do. One thing to know about this resource area is it does have 3 iron runes. This is useful for power mining iron. It's very fast mining experience and pretty easy to do. There's also a number of other rocks up to adamant. There are 4 yew trees and 3 magic trees if you wanted to do any wood cutting, as well as a permanent fire and a furnace in case you wanted to smith anything or you wanted to use the fire to cook any food that you caught. You can also kill these runite golems and then mine them, and they act as a runite rock. So this is a way for you to even get runite ore here as well. And again, you can note just about everything here with piles for a little bit of money. And you don't have to worry about having like a huge stack of noted items on you, because if somebody does kill you, well, they're not going to get anything. You're going to keep all your stuff. And of course, if you had something like Endless Harvest, that would just bank it for you. Or if you had the banker's note to just bank it yourself, that would all work too. But you won't be able to like teleport out and last recall back here because you can't teleport in the deep wilderness. To the west of the major arena, you'll get the Wilderness Agility course. This is actually a pretty good source of agility experience. It is dangerous and there are mobs that can attack you, so just make sure you bring a little bit of food before you go here. And you'll also get access to the Air and the Earth Obelisk. This is so that you can make any kind of battle staffs if you have unpowered orbs. Unlocking the Wilderness will give you access to what I consider to be one of the better Slayer lists in the game. Also, I have no idea how Crystalia actually works. I don't know if she gives you Laren's keys if you use her. But right now, it seems like she's just going to be a regular Slayer master. So I wouldn't really expect to do like specific Wilderness Slayer with her. You're just going to be treating her like a regular Slayer. I don't even know if you can get tasks from her, to be perfectly honest. With the Wilderness, you'll unlock bears. These guys are kind of just found all around the Wilderness, and you can also do Callisto and Ardeo if you want to. We'll talk about those guys a little later, but that's like the bear boss. You'll also have access to Necreals, and Necreals in the Wilderness are actually greater Necreals, and they're in multi-combat. This is because you'll have access to the Wilderness Slayer Cave. There's actually 2 entrances, and they're both kind of to the east of the Ferox Enclave. And yeah, this place is pretty stacked. So we've got greater Necreals over here. They are multi-combat, so you can burst, barrage. You can use those black chins that we talked about earlier. You'll also be getting Dust Devils as a task. These are also in multi-combat. Great way of doing them. And while these aren't tasks, you're also going to have like Abyssal Demons. So it's an easier way of getting them than going over to like the Abyssal area. You got Ankus here. This is a barrageable task. Jellies, I'm pretty sure you can also barrage those. Now you'll also be able to get Lava Dragons as a Slayer task. These are found just northeast of the Chinchampas. And honestly, I don't think these guys are that great. You can safe spot them and then like bury their bones. But I would just save all the bones to use at the Chaos Altar anyway, so I'm not really like sold on Lava Dragons unless you specifically want to get Lava Dragon scales, and the shards there can be used to make like extended anti-fire. So that's an option for sure. You'll also be getting skeletons. These can be found kind of all over the Wilderness. Nothing really special about these guys, honestly. But one of the most interesting Slayer tasks is going to be Revenants, which can be found in the Revenant Cave. And there's also 2 entrances here, one that's just west of the Ferox Enclave and one that's a little bit north. First up, you'll get free entry here, so you're not going to worry about having to pay the 100,000 entry fee. Every monster inside of the Revenant Cave will be able to drop statuettes, which can actually be sold for some coins. This might be a nice way of actually getting some money to like get your account going. So just keep an eye out on those while you kill Revenants. One of the main drops from Revenants is the Amulet of Avarice. This will skull you up in the Revenant Cave, but it's going to give you a 15% damage and accuracy bonus to Revenants. And again, it's Iron Man, so you can kind of do this without risk. It's not like people are going to be killing you because you're skulled, because they're not going to get your items anyway. You're going to get those back. But just use that to get extra damage. And I mean, this is kind of like a free Slayer mask almost. Like you're going to be able to do a lot of damage to Revenants. Now, all Revenants will be dropping Revenant Ether. This is used to charge a number of items that drop from the Revenants as well, such as the Bracelet of Ethereum. When charged, this is going to reduce the damage taken by 75% from Revenants. So we're getting 15% damage and accuracy bonus, 75% damage reduction. Like, this is such a free way of training your combat. I really think that people are underrating the Wilderness as like a way to get your account going. In addition, Revenants drop 1 weapon for every single combat style that is going to be talked about basically for the rest of this video, because this is like your main gear progression here. For ranged, you'll get the crossbow, not the crossbow, the crossbow. For mage, Thamaron's Scepter, and for melee, Vigora's Chainmace. All 3 of these can be charged with Ethereum to get a 50% bonus accuracy and damage while killing stuff in the Wilderness. So you're definitely going to want to keep those charged. And if you get one of those, your damage here is going to be so massive. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the strongest weapons you can be using while killing stuff in the Wilderness. And I know we're using the map here a lot. It's just kind of annoying running around the entire Wilderness with like no teleports at all. So please forgive me. I'm just going to show you the location on the map. Basically, for PVM and bossing in the Wilderness, we got like 5 lame bosses that we got to talk about. First up, it's the Chaos Elemental, who spawns all the way at the northeast. And this guy's kind of a joke. All of their mechanics are annoying, if anything. like unequipping your gear just to mess with you. But the Chaos Elemental does drop a Dragon Pickaxe, which is actually a shared drop against like pretty much the entire wilderness. Every single boss here will drop a Dragon Pickaxe. Over by the Chaos Altar, as well as one of the obelisk locations, you'll be able to go to the lava maze and just descend down to the King Black Dragon lair. This boss is so iconic if this was like 2005, but yeah, it's pretty damn boring now. Luckily, you're just going to have a crazy amount of damage to like completely destroy this boss, but there's just nothing interesting to really be said about this boss. Bring some anti-dragon fire, I guess. Now, next up in pretty much the same area, you're actually going to be able to find the Chaos Fanatic running around here. The next 3 bosses we talk about are all going to drop a piece of the Odium Ward and the Malediction Ward. By getting a piece from all 3 of them, you'll be able to combine it to actually create the shield. The Odium Ward is for range, and it's actually going to be your 3rd best ranged offhand next to the Dragonfire Ward or the Twisted Buckler, which is your best in slot. And the Malediction Ward is the mage offhand, although it's not that great, and most of the other options are a lot better, such as like a Master's Book from the Mage Training Arena in the desert. But if you have nothing better, I mean, why not go for it? It's probably going to be a task to actually get this anyways. The only other interesting drop from the Chaos Fanatic is an Ancient Staff, but you would need to have the desert unlocked to equip this anyways, at which point you could just buy it, I guess. Oh, and I'm not really going into any of these bosses because all of their mechanics are like really, really simple. You just like dodge one attack, basically. If we go south over to the ruins, this is where you're going to take on the Crazy Archaeologist. He drops the Odium and Malediction Shard too, so you're also going to need to fight him. And the only interesting drop is actually a Rune Crossbow, so you could actually go ahead and try to farm the Crazy Archaeologist if you wanted to, but Runite Limbs are like a 1 in 16 drop from Steel Dragons, and getting your fletching high enough to craft a Rune Crossbow is not very difficult in leagues when you have the boosted experience rates. That's more of like an Iron Man thing to try to get your Rune Crossbow from him instead. Finally, over by the resource area to the east of the Mage Arena is going to be the Scorpion Pit, which is where Scorpia resides. And she actually does do quite a lot of damage, so she's probably the hardest of the 3, but nothing too complicated, just kind of like an annoying boss for you to slam. And the only interesting drop that she has is like a Dragon Scimitar, but I don't even think you're allowed to use Dragon Scimitars without Monkey Madness complete, so again, it's kind of like a wasted drop. Okay, and the big 3 of the wilderness, we got Callisto, Vedion, and Venenatis. All 3 of these are found in their respective dungeon, Callisto's Den, Vedion's Rest, and the Silk Chasm. And these areas are actually multi-combat, so you are going to be able to be attacked by like multiple people. In fact, like a whole group of people could run up on you and kill you while you're fighting Callisto, and that's just something you're going to have to accept if they wanted to do that. However, just north of the Ferox Enclave, all 3 of these actually have like an easier variant, and this is found in singles. So while another person can run up and attack you while you're fighting the boss, you're not going to be able to be attacked by like a whole clan just coming to mess up your day. Cardio is the Callisto variant, and it's found in Hunter's End. Calvarion is the easier version of Vedion, and that's found over at the Skeletal Tomb. And Spindle is found in the Web Chasm, that's the easier version of Venenatis. And all 6 of these bosses drop the Dragon Pickaxe and the Dragon Two-Handed Sword. The big 3 though, the harder version and the multi, they have better drop rates at all of their uniques, but you can go do the easier versions if you want to. You can still get all of the drops, all of the uniques, just at a lower rate. First up, let's talk about the Bear Brothers, Callisto and Ardeo. These 2 drop the Claws of Callisto, which can be used with Vigora's Chainmace to make the Ursine Chainmace. And basically the upgraded version just gives it better stats and usually some additional power, in this case a special attack that deals 20 damage over time. You'll also be able to get the Tyrannical Ring, which is the best crush attack bonus ring in the entire game. And depending on what regions you have, you might not really have any good rings to use, so this might just help your build and your setup to do any kind of damage you need. In addition, Callisto and Ardeo drop the Voidwaker Hilt. This is one piece of the Voidwaker. You're going to need all 3 from all 3 of the bosses, and we'll talk about the Voidwaker at the end once we've kind of gone over the first 3 bosses. Next up, Vedion and the easier version, Calvarion. These 2 drop the Skull of Vedion, which is used with Thamarin Scepter to create the Accursed Scepter. This is one of the few magic special attacks, and it will actually drain the opponent's defense and magic by 15%. However, it can't go much further than that, so this isn't going to be like crazy, but you know, it's nice to have a special attack as a mage user. They also drop the Ring of the Gods, which has a prayer bonus, and if you imbue it with a Holy Wrench, this would require Mauritania, however, to actually get the Holy Wrench, The Ring of the Gods will also get the Holy Wrench effect, where you're getting more prayer points back every time you take a sip of like a prayer potion or a super restore. And by the way, all of these rings can be imbued for better stats, and you can do this in like Soul Wars if you want to, which only requires Misthalin, so you'll all have access to it. Vedion and Calvarion also drop the Voidwaker Blade, the second part of building the Voidwaker. Finally, you'll be able to fight Venenatis and Spindle. They drop the Fangs of Venenatis, which upgrades the crossbow into the Webweaver bow. This has a really dangerous special attack that's going to hit 4 times. And imagine that with 100% accuracy, you're going to actually be able to do a lot of damage with this special attack. The Spiders also drop the Treasonous Ring, which is the best for stab attack bonus. And they'll also drop the Voidwaker Gem, the final component for the Voidwaker. So let's actually talk about the Voidwaker, because I imagine a lot of you might be going to the wilderness just to play around with this really cool weapon. First off, its special attack has a guaranteed hit. You're always going to be hitting for it, but it's going to be doing magic damage from 50% to 150% of your max hit. However, the max hit is based off of your melee damage. One of the best parts of the special attack relic is the fact that it's going to have 100% accuracy. But this weapon already has 100% accuracy, so you're not really getting that bonus. Whereas something like the Dragon Dagger suddenly becomes one of the best special attacks in the entire game, because with 100% accuracy, you're going to be pumping out so much damage with just a Dragon Dagger. In addition, the Voidwaker doesn't work very well with the combat relics themselves. First off, it's a 4-tick, so if you had the melee relic, this would take it down to a 2-tick and allow you to dump your specs every 2 ticks. However, because it's a magic damage bonus, the magic damage itself, I believe, will only benefit if you had the mage relic and you got 20% more damage via that. And while that does sound great, just being able to dump your spec every 2 ticks is going to be way, way, way more important. So you could probably play around with the melee relic with this, but it's just not getting that much value compared to some of the other special attacks that really kind of blow up the game with, how powerful the special attack actually ends up being. So I don't know. I mean, this weapon is really cool. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of really cool highlight reels from people like PK'ing with it and getting some cool max hits. But as far as like building around it, unfortunately, I just don't think it'll end up working out. And I really do hate saying that, because going for like a melee build with the Voidwaker was like one of my very, very first ideas with this leagues, and it just doesn't really like look good on paper, so I can't really justify like recommending this. But hey, it's freaking leagues, okay? Do whatever you want, have fun. There's nothing wrong with going wilderness and just having fun with the Voidwaker. Okay, and there's one more thing that we needed to talk about. Just to the northeast of the Ferox Enclave, you'll have access to the Corporeal Beast Cave. So you will be able to go and fight the Corporeal Beast, which has some of the most rare drop table in the entire game. But this is really going to benefit from the 5 times drop bonus. You may actually be able to see some of these without spending your entire leagues grinding. Now, Corp is kind of weird because they only take damage from certain sources. You need Corp Bane weapons, which basically just means a spear. Magic also does full damage. However, if you're going for ranged, you're not going to be doing that much damage, but your Ruby Bolt special effect will be doing a lot of damage regardless. So if you do have like a Zerite crossbow and you can just dump like Ruby Bolt spec, Ruby Bolt spec, Ruby Bolt spec on this guy, ranged will work. It's going to be a little funky. Corp is interesting because he drops the Spirit Shields as well as the Sigils, which will upgrade the Spirit Shield. Now, the Spectral Sigil and the Arcane Sigil are kind of meh. They don't really do that much. They just give you a little bit more defensive, a little bit more offensive bonuses as a mage offhand. The Arcane Sigil, however, though, is used to upgrade the Ward of Elidinus into the Fortified version. And you get that from the Desert, and that's actually your best in slot mage offhand in case you're not planning on using the Shadow for whatever reason. I don't know why you would go the Desert and not use the Shadow, though. But hey, you're not guaranteed to get your Shadow, so you might want to go the Wilderness and use a Ward of Elidinus in the meantime while you farm your Shadow from the Tombs of Amascut. However, the big drop from Corp is going to be the Elysian Spirit Shield. Hope I said that right. And this has a 70% chance of reducing damage by 25%. Effectively, this is a 17.5% damage reduction in your shield offhand. That is really huge, especially in leagues where you're doing a ton of damage. You're usually taking less damage by some relic effect. And this might be just really nice to have if you're like going for Inferno for the first time, or you just need like a really powerful offhand to use. Almost 20% damage reduction around the board is really going to make your league's experience feel very, very smooth. And again, with 5 times the drop rate, there's actually a fair chance you could go for this and get this item, despite it being so damn rare in the main game. And guys, that's actually going to wrap up our Wilderness deep dive. I'm sure that I missed a lot of stuff in the wilderness, but honestly, this was one of the hardest things for me to research just because I don't do a lot of PvP. I don't PK very much, and I'm just not familiar with a lot of the stuff that happens in the wilderness. Like, I didn't even know that there were like the easy versions of the 3 wilderness bosses. But I did want to get this video out to you just in case you are going for the wilderness. Again, so many people count out the wilderness for a number of reasons. Personally, I don't really enjoy a lot of the content here, but I also can't deny that all of the content here is very easy. It's on the simpler side. So if you're looking to add in a 3rd region that's not going to have like a whole chunk of like long grinds or difficult bosses to learn or really annoying skilling grinds like 2000 monkey laps, then the wilderness is actually a really good pick. Especially if you can be patient and, just wait out the initial rush of PKers who just want to have like their early fun and kill people, get that out of their system, and then they go back to the main game. The deep dives have been such a fun series to work on. It's really helped me learn a lot about the game through the league's angle. And honestly, it's given me a lot of respect for all of the regions as a whole. I think when I first started off, I really only saw like 3 or 4 regions as being viable. But after going through them and like looking at the content, looking at the pros and cons of all the regions, I really do think you could make a case for every single zone. So while it might be fun to just write it off and say Wildy bad, I think the Wildy's a lot better than we think. So if this is your first deep dive, or maybe you've been watching them all, I am so incredibly happy to be done with the entire series. It was a very, very big goal for me, really before the channel kind of took off at all, to try to get all 10 of these done before the release of leagues. And we're literally like 10 hours away now. So thank you guys for sticking with it. Thank you guys for being patient for this video to come out. Hopefully this isn't changing too many of your decisions last minute. For everyone watching who's planning on going the wilderness, I have mad respect for you, okay? And I hope you guys have a great time. After this video goes up, I'm definitely going straight to sleep so that I can rest up before leagues. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in Leagues 4.